started.
Let's get into it.
Are you guys ready? A conversation on intentional leadership? Yeah, let's go. Yay. So as you guys know, we are actual podcast hosts and you're in a live podcast session. But it wouldn't be a Two My Sisters podcast if we didn't do our intro.
There you go.
So, hello and welcome to the Two My Sisters podcast. I'm Courtney.
And I'm Renee.
I'm Kike, Oniwinde, Agoro.
Okay.
And we are your sisters today. And on today's episode, we are going to be talking about intentional steps when it comes to leadership. Fantastic. And so we're going to jump straight into it. This is a safe space. Everyone in this room is a leader in their own right, whether it be of an organization, of their own lives, of their group of friends, whatever it is. We all have influence. We all have power. And so how do we steward those two things intentionally? And so we have a few questions. Right.
I'm ready.
So as the leader of BYP, as the orchestrator,
the chief boss,
the real boss. What are some of the things that you have done to cultivate yourself as a leader?
Oh God, it's so hard. It is so hard because I always say when I started BYP Network, it was just this idea. Let me just, bring Black professionals together. Let's find the leaders. Let's find the role models. Not realizing that on the journey that I too would be a leader, that I too would be seen as a role model. Yeah. And so for me, it's been that shift of initially it was like BYP Network, the logo, you can see BYP. Why do you need to see who I am? Why do you need to know me? But in business, it's like they need to know the person behind the brand. Otherwise, they don't really buy into the brand. Yeah. And so it took this whole process of like coming out of myself, out of my shell, stepping into my executive presence, making sure people know my background and why I started BYP Network. And it's just been this ongoing journey of leadership development. So like even these leadership conferences, they help me, right? I go on to courses. I mean, I've been on so many business accelerators. I'm always online. I go to networking events. I still learn and I still develop. And I think that's important for everyone here. Like it doesn't ever stop, right? And you have to keep going. And there's no such thing as made it. You've never made it. There's always a next level.
That's fantastic.
That's beautiful. I absolutely love that. And I love the fact that you touched on the reality of having to put yourself out there a lot more. And I think a lot of folks in this room can resonate with the fact that there's a little bit of just nervousness in putting yourself out there, whether it be for an opportunity that you want or, a business that you're running. So my next question is, how did you actually get comfortable with being present online, being out here, being the face of BYP?
I feel like it's only really now, right? 7 years in, because I realized I was doing myself a disservice. Like if you don't fully step into your power, you don't fully step into yourself, then you can feel it as well and others can feel it too. At the end of the day, the platform's there for you, the stage is there for you, you have to walk on it. So it's up to you whether you come there, you say what you need to say, you deliver your message, you inspire people, or you're sheepish, or you're uninspiring. And you have to think, what do you want the audience to think about you when they leave the room? They could think of oh, she was really shy, or I didn't really understand what she was talking about, I didn't understand the business. Or they can leave thinking, wow, BYP Network is incredible, she's incredible, this is a great business. And you want to go for the latter, right? So you have to practice, whether it's self-talk in the mirror, whether it's going and speaking any opportunity that you can in smaller rooms, you have to develop it. And it's important for your careers as well. Even if you're not on a stage, you're on stages in your career. If you have to do a presentation for your manager or whatever, you need to have executive presence. You need to be able to get yourself out there. So especially in time of social media, you need to kind of embody it.
Yeah. So then let's kind of address the elephant in the room. Obviously we are Black. Yeah. And so shock, just in case. But sometimes when you're trying to step into, and I love what you said, an executive presence, you're trying to carry an executive presence, that can be perceived as aggressive, intimidating. And so how do you go past, you've done the self-talk in the mirror, you're confident, you show up with that executive presence in the boardroom or in the office or in front of your team, and then you're kind of met with some resistance, or maybe you start to get in your own head around how you're perceived. How do you then navigate through some of that tension, and how have you navigated through that?
Yeah, great question. I think, again, it's a journey. You know, you everyone has different opinions. Someone else could receive something different from what you said than somebody else. They can come up to be like, oh, that you know, why would you say that? That's terrible. Whereas someone else would be like, that was incredible. Yeah. So you have to take each thing with a pinch of salt, I'd say. Like something me and my friend were talking about was that actually don't let others project onto you. You have to be the one that projects out. You know, because people will paint their narrative of you regardless. They say it's not about what you say, it's about the way you look, the way, you know, they judge you in 5 seconds. Yeah. So you have to make that conscious effort of knowing that that will happen anyway, you know, fine, but I know who I am. And I think that's super, super important.
That's good.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Well, as you know, we are all about sisterhood over at Team My Sisters. It's kind of in the title of the podcast and the name of the community, right? And oftentimes when we think about leadership, we often think of an individual. We think of one person that's kind of flying the flag, or the one person that's often in the forefront. How has relationships around you been pivotal in your leadership journey?
Oh, they're so important. You know, I don't know if anyone knows here, I'm married, I have a baby. She's 15 months old. She's very cute. She's cute. She's a little cute. And I always said that one thing about me, I've always been intentional in my career, but also in my personal life as well. I know, you know, there's this kind of boss babe, CEO, I don't need a man, independent, and that's okay, but I did. Let me just be quite frank, right? Like, I know how hard the journey is. You know, you as a woman, you want your relationship, you want that kind of stuff. And I definitely prioritized that too. And I thought it was so important. And I'm so grateful to be in a place now where I have a great family life, right? Like I can switch off and just chill and be with my family. My weekends are filled with just going to play centers or just vibes in. And I love that aspect of me, right? Like I don't need to bring it here or bring it to work or whatever, but I feel whole and feel very complete. So even if things are difficult, let's say with work or, you know, growing a business, I know that I've got that kind of shut off, that switch off where I'm happy in this space. And you know, I always say, like, those around me, I'm always like, you know, what's going on? Like, don't like leave that part alone. It's important. If you want a relationship, if you want a family, it's important. Go for it, right? So I think a lot of the older women as well, they always say, oh, you know what, I left it too late. That was for you, younger generation, make sure you invest in that area. And that's my view too. Obviously, each to their own. But I do think relationships are so important. And then also with family as well, I lost my mum a year and a half ago. And the thing is, what I realized is that I could never have predicted that I would lose my mum. And that actually here I am with my husband and my baby. Like I always think, would I have coped so well if I didn't have that? Because you can't predict life. You don't know what's going to happen, right? Like you think, oh, I'm good, I've got my mom, I've got my family, we're good. And then just like that, gone. And you know, my husband was just so amazing in terms of just comforting me, being there for me, knowing that I was going to have a child as well. That was also a comfort. It was like, oh, my mum's coming back. So her name is Yetunde, which means like grandma has returned in Yoruba. So for me, it was like, wow, thank you God. You know, what a silver lining. And it's made such a difference in my life.
Wow,
that's beautiful.
Wow. I mean, how have you handled, obviously with so much going on in your personal life, the beautiful, the grief, how have you handled having to deal with that, but also show up as a leader in your organization?
Yeah, it's been crazy. I always use the word crazy because it is. I remember, you know, I only had 6 weeks maternity leave, for example, because just so much had to get done. There's a reality of being a business owner that people don't realize, right? You see this, see the fancy lights, but there's a lot of hard work that goes behind all of it, right? Running a business, teams, individuals. And again, like I said, in this kind of environment of soft life and people seeing and thinking, oh, I should be the same, or, you know, what makes them different? Nothing makes me special or different. I just work hard. I'm resilient. And I think resilience is actually number one. During the same time I lost my mum, someone else close within the business lost their dad, and sadly they weren't able to recover. They weren't able to recover from it, and it really just knocked them out. Whereas for me, knowing that I was, you know, having a child, knowing there was still a business to run, it's like I just had to switch to kind of like, there's still stuff to be done. And I know that's hard for people, right? You want to kind of be down. Of course, life is happening and you should be down. You should grieve that. But you're still here, you know? You can make those people proud, the people that have gone. You can still, you know, do stuff in their name, in their legacy. But you still have to show up, you know? Otherwise, life can really happen to you and it can take the worst turn and you never recover, and then suddenly all the dreams that you have is gone and your confidence is on the ground. Everything is low because you weren't able to recover from life happening. And I think that's the takeaway I give. Like you have to be resilient in this life.
Absolutely beautiful. Oh, goodness.
That is heavy stuff.
You know when the word just hits you, like, oh, I need to take a moment to just feel the wind of that.
Yeah.
That was, wow, the sweet fragrance. Anyways, speaking of showing up and the importance of showing up, consistency, being out there, and it's something that between me and Courtney is super, super important, just the importance of showing up.
Yeah.
I actually wanted to ask you a question around the courage to be disliked. Because when we think about leadership, when we think about putting ourselves out there, oftentimes we have to deal with, quote unquote, the haters, but also that resistance, right, from folks that may not get your vision, your values, who may actively have, words or things to say about you. So how do you deal with the reality of being disliked in certain situations or certain areas?
That's such a great question. I think that's not touched on, right?
Yeah.
Like, you don't actually think about there are people who don't like you for no reason. They just don't like you.
Right.
Like, oh, here she goes again on my timeline. Oh, another win, well done. And it's something within themselves that, they can't help. But actually, it does make a difference, right? Because it makes you feel like, oh, maybe I shouldn't put up my achievement.
Yeah.
That's something I battled with because since young, I've always been a high achiever. Like, whether it's, representing Great Britain javelin, all A stars at school, this scholarship. Like, I've always been someone that's like win.
Yeah.
But people don't see those lows, right? That I just explained. It's like that. The lows are deep, but the wins are high. But people will see both, but the wins is what they'll see. Oh, another one,
Yeah.
But that's what I'm telling myself. It doesn't mean that's the truth. People are like, well done. People are like, wow, I see her. She looks just like me. I can do it too.
Yeah.
So actually, if you're thinking you've got haters and all this negative energy, you're stopping your light shining, and you're stopping those who can feed off it and who can also be bright and do amazing things, not get that from you just because you're afraid of being disliked.
Yeah.
Like, everyone has their little communities and their little niches, right? You can have 100 people love you, ride or die for you. You might have 1,000 who hate you. Focus on that 100. That's true. Focus on that 100 people. They're the ones that are going to uplift you and fuel you. And people always say, you start something like a mixtape, no one's supporting you, no one in your local community is supporting you, then you blow, you've got all these fans and you're thinking, oh, all them haters from ends. But it's like, you know what I mean? But it's like, you've blown now, right? Because you did it, you kept going, you've blown. And them haters from ends are still in ends hating. Who cares? So you have to just go for it, right? And not care about negative, what the negative people are saying.
That brings me to a very interesting question, because I feel like most time your friends aren't going to support the mixtape because it's bad. You know what I mean? It's terrible.
Shout out to all the SoundCloud rappers though. We love you guys.
It's like you give us the link, woo, shut it off. It's bad. But that brings me to a real question around, obviously we're all sitting here now having built stuff and doing amazing things, looking real cute under the spotlight. But have there been some fails in your leadership journey? Like some things where you look back and you think, shouldn't have handled that way. That wasn't very leaderish.
The whole journey is fails. Oh my God, the whole journey is fails. And it's funny because obviously we started the session or the conference day on athlete mindset, right? And the question I missed to ask is about the fact that you fail so much as an athlete, but it only takes one win. That's actually the truth. As an athlete, you have 20 competitions. 19 was terrible. You came last. You didn't succeed. That one, you get a new personal best. You're now ranked number 1 in the country. And you're the best. Wow. Like that is literally how it is as an athlete, and that's how it is in business as well. You get so many fails. You hire the wrong person. The person sweet talk you. They didn't do anything they said they're going to do because you're worried of being liked. You don't let them go in time, and then they cause destruction in your company. And then you got this. It is non-stop. It is non-stop, and especially when you're trying to change a narrative as well, right? So one thing I always say is that at BRP, we're here preaching black talent. We know there's black talent, so it starts here. We need to show it internally, So why are we letting these standards slip? We can't, right? This is a fail right here for us, and we know the battle is outside, but it's inside too, right? As a community, let's be honest. So it's one of those ones where it's a consistent fail. You're gonna keep failing. Like there'll be a fail again tomorrow, but look at where we are today as a company, right? So even though we've been failing, look how far we are. So if we give up from all the fails, then what? But you have to fail your way to succeed, and that's the key thing. And we don't do that enough in the UK. In the UK, it's like, I don't want to try, what if I fail? When in America, it's very much, they expect you to fail. If you haven't got enough fails under your belt, they don't even want you. They invest more in third-time founders than first-time founders because they know that you failed in that company and you've learned a lot. And it's true.
Wow. I mean, if this is what failure looks like.
I'm ready to.
You need success. That's fantastic. That's great advice.
Beautiful, beautiful advice. I actually want to touch on the whole, intersectionality, right? Being both Black, but also a woman, entering into these spaces. Obviously, BYP is a fantastic network of young Black professionals, but hello for the Black sisters in the room that really want to do well, and the difficulty of entering into spaces, not just spaces that are not for you being Black, but also not for you being woman, and then also not for you being Black and a woman. And oftentimes these can even be in community spaces within our own community. So my question to you is, how do you navigate that? Like, what are some tips that you can share with folks that are Black women, they want to be leaders, they want to be, doing the thing, but they feel like they've almost got all of these stacks of, I don't know, areas or, identities that they feel are preventing them from entering these spaces?
The crazy thing is, it's real. It is actually real. Like, one story I share, it's a safe space, even though it's being recorded and be uploaded. It's like, actually, my worst work environment, it was from 3 Black men who literally...
Sorry, brother. Tell us the truth. Sorry, brother. Wow.
Yeah, it was so bad. It's like I remember one of them said, "Oh, when are you going to get married, have a baby, so you can shut you up?" That was it was like it. Yeah, it was so toxic, guys. It was so bad, but. Luckily, at the time, I also had incredible Black men around me too.
Yeah. Right.
That's the key. So not all Black men.
Redemption.
They're sweating in the So honestly, not all Black men, not all Black people, not all white people.
Yeah.
And I think that's the problem with the community at the moment. It's like all men are trash, all Black men are trash, all women are trash. Yeah. And that's the narrative that keeps on going around and around. It's not true. Your one experience or 10 experiences with these individuals doesn't mean that all billions of people in the world are those people.
Yeah.
Right.
That's so good.
And I think that's something people need to really understand. And I say also in personal life, like dating life, okay, you had a bad experience dating this guy. Doesn't mean the next guy is going to be bad. But if you bring that energy into that area, then it's going to be bad. You actually have to draw a line under each situation and keep it moving. Boy. If I let that situation at the time affect me, BYP wouldn't be here. Because I would have been like, what's the point?
Yeah.
Look at my community. Look what they're doing to me.
Yeah.
Like, look at what they're doing to me.
Actually so good.
But I kept going. I kept moving. And I understand that each situation is isolated. Even if it's 99%, that 1% is still there, And that's the stuff that keeps me motivated.
Yeah. That's the dating advice someone needed. That is fantastic. It's crazy how time has flown, but we kind of have to wrap it up.
That's crazy.
Oh, God.
I know. Listen to the Two My Sisters podcast for part 2.
Hello.
Hey. But I wanted to wrap this up by all of us sharing our tips for cultivating intentional leadership. So
you start. I've been talking.
Well, I just asked the question.
It's giving
Renee.
I had a feeling you were going to turn to me first. And yeah, here we go. That's what you get for sitting in the middle, it seems. Intentional leadership. I think that if you're not a good leader of yourself, you'll be a bad leader of others. Yeah. I think oftentimes we think that we need to show up for other people or lead other people in order for that to be the receipt that we're good leaders. But I find that if you have bad character, if you have bad systems in place, if you're allowing yourself to be ruled by elements outside of you, then you're going to be a bad leader in other situations. So I think that it's very, very important that you lead yourself first before you think you can step into the arena and lead other people.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. I think for me, don't expect people to be what you're not.
Yeah.
You have to, if you're a leader, you're a model. If your team is only going to reflect who you are and what you give. I think we've even seen it in relationships and friendship. This year we wrote a book about cultivating friendship and being intentional about that. And one of the main things you learn is people give what they get from you. Right. And so if you're going to be a leader and you're going to ask people to show up with excellence, you have to display that, right? You have to be that leading example. And so, yeah, that would be my one.
And I want to jump on that. And boundaries as well. That's the thing. Because I think something I found is that the lack of boundaries. Yeah. So even though you can show up with that excellence and be that, but if people aren't showing that, you're like, oh, let it slip, it will just cascade. So I think that's so important, doing that, but then also having boundaries. Yeah. And something I saw the other day from Miles Monroe, he's a pastor, he passed away sadly. Something that he said is that leadership isn't actually about leading people. It's about finding your gift and offering your gift to the world. And I'm holding on to that, and I think everyone else should. Yeah.
Wow. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed those nuggets of wisdom.
Yeah. Apparently there's a Q&A.
Ooh. Oh, what a treat. Yeah. Wow. Okay. Let's go into that. Does anyone have any questions? Oh, is it a Slido?
Yeah.
Oh, fine.
Oh, it's high tech around here. We love that. We love that. All right, fabulous. All right, cool. What does it mean to be a black woman in business? How do you own being a black woman in what you do?
Ooh. I think what it means to be a black woman in business is seeing the negative news a lot and having to put it aside. So negative news is like 0.02% of black women raise over $1 million or something like that.
Yeah.
You know, I saw that, it was there, blah, blah, blah. But we did a fundraise and raised over $1 million with 1,200 investors, you know? And that was because I was like, you know what, I see that, but we're going to prove them wrong.
That's good.
Right? But it's that constant knowing that, okay, these are the things stacked against you and I'm understanding it, but I'm going to keep on going regardless. It goes back to that resilience. It is frustrating. We were born with resilience and trauma, whatever it is. Yeah. But sadly, it's a continuous journey, right? And we're doing it for the next generation, you know, after us. But you have to keep showing up regardless and knowing, we know, you know, our back's against the wall. We know the microaggressions. We know the negative narratives. But what are we doing to kind of shine positive light? You know, during this time, again, safe space, a lot was going on as a black business, you know, founder with their business, fine, right? That happened over there. That doesn't mean all black women business owners are the same. Yeah. You can't now look at me, you know, oh, is it the same? No, don't do that, right? Isolate it. And I think that's one of the problems. We're painted with the same brush. Ooh. If one of us fails, we all fail. Yeah. You know, all black businesses, black women, business founders are all the same. No. And I think that's the thing that I don't like as a black woman leader. But these are things that we have to keep changing, and this is why we have to keep showing up as well.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Do you want to ask the next one?
Yeah, sure. What's one way you wish to give back to your community?
That's good.
I'm giving back, no?
She says holding a whole conference, so what else are you going to do? Huh?
Take my blood, you know? So I actually just got named as Vice Chair of the London Chamber of Commerce Black Business Association. Woo! Thank you. So that's another extension of me in terms of giving back. Like as a business owner, what the things I've learned, how we can amplify other black businesses, how we can win them contracts and new businesses as well, get them networking. We realize it's about being in the right rooms and spaces. And through our connection with the London Chamber of Commerce, that's what it's about. It's that funneling for black businesses to win business, big business. And we want to also amplify them. We want to show people, look, these are business leaders in different industries. How about the people doing wind farming? What about them? We don't talk about them. It's not just community businesses like BYP Network. And for me, that's the first step of kind of doing something different outside of BYP Network and giving that part. And I think we were saying earlier, like I'm not a content creator. I tried, I'm sorry. So I can't show every dynamism of my life. Like I can't show every nitty gritty, but all I can do is post what I can or share what I can. I do office hours as well. Like every week I'm meeting at least 4 people a week just who've got questions on business. I give that to them as well.
So good.
And just whatever I can, really and truly. But again, boundaries, and I need time for me too. And I think I'm giving a lot, guys.
You are. You're doing a great job, sweetie. Okay, so this one's to the panel. So all of us, how as a black man in tech can I support more intentionally women in tech and make sure that they don't feel like imposters? Shout out to you,
brother. Thank you. See, not all black men.
Do you get?
Yeah, we need you.
Oh yeah, to the panel.
It's the way you turned around and said, okay.
I think one thing is giving people the stage and passing the mic. I think when people want to share ideas, they can often just be overlooked and not given even just the room to share what it is that they're thinking. And so I think when you are given that opportunity to speak and share ideas, if you see that somebody hasn't, maybe the space for them hasn't been created for them to open up their mouth and maybe they're a bit shy. I think a lot of this also comes down to temperament, because some people may feel like, I know my idea is not going to be received in this room, so let me just shut down. I think it's good to just pass the mic and be like, before I share my idea, Renee, what do you think? You know? And I think that's a good way to give someone the platform when you've been given it and kind of use your privilege for good in that way. How about you?
Yeah, that was great advice. I think to add to that, just having a listening ear. I think oftentimes a lot of Black women can feel discouraged in sharing their, journeys or their lived experiences because they're being shut down by so many different folks, right? From white folks to our community. So actively making the space to listen, holding space for Black women, to hear their stories, to actually validate them, to support them is super important, both in the industry, but also in personal capacities as well. So, when you do have friends that are trying to speak to you about some of the issues that we're going through as a community, open your ears, Shad. You don't always have to answer, but you can actually just say, you know what, I'm actually going to listen to you. I'm going to hear you, because one of the most powerful things for people is when they feel heard.
Yeah.
So opening up your ears, actually giving space to the women in your life, and the women, not just the ones in close proximity to you as well, because I know that for a lot of brothers, it's so easy to give space to women that we know and women that we love and women that are close to us, but giving space to Black women in all of their varieties and all of their contexts is really important.
That's excellent.
I think if I think back to the environment I was in, because it was tech and it was Black men in tech, I'd say if only they just supported me, they saw I was excited. This was early days of BYP Network. I'd invite them to, come along to the event. They're just like, yeah, sure, I'll come, I'll show it. That would have went a long way, honestly. Just showing that kind of energy back and that enthusiasm. Or even if they didn't think it was anything great, just be like, oh, okay, cool, well done. But that's a positive, I'd say, not the negative, and that would make a huge difference. Yeah,
that's excellent.
That's beautiful.
That's excellent. All right, final question. Did you always envision yourself as a leader? If not, what would you say to your younger self who's becoming a leader?
Is that to the panel? Is that just
let's just keep it going. I'm not going first. I just want that to be known.
Because I know you're not looking at me again.
I think because I was doing sports at such a young age, I saw myself as an athlete, on major stages during the javelin, competing globally, internationally. And I guess that came with role model visibility as a sports person. I wouldn't say I ever saw myself as a business leader or anything along those lines. But from a young age, I've always had to go on stages, say, hey, I'm Kike, I do sports. My borough supported me at the time as well, so I had to go to a lot of borough events as well. So from a young age, I've always been pushed, I'd say, into leadership because of what I was doing. But like I said, it's only now I'm stepping into it. So my advice would be step into it earlier. Just step into it. If it's already there, if it's calling you, if it's obvious, just lean in. No point in pushing yourself away and trying to make yourself smaller.
That is beautiful. How about you, Renee?
I think for me, I would say to my younger self, the things that you see as disadvantages will become your superpower in the spaces that you want to enter.
Come on.
I think for me, when I was younger, I kept on seeing things that made me different as things that would be a disadvantage in operating in certain spaces. You're the only Black person in this room, or you're the only woman in this room, or you're not from a background that is seen as acceptable in these particular spaces. But it's actually from difference that we can draw that level of leadership and that understanding and that context and that fresh perspective that everyone likes to use when they're talking about their diversity campaigns and whatnot. It's diversity inclusion is all about fresh perspectives and all that nonsense. There you go. First thoughts and mixed groups and all that kind of nonsense. But it's actually from a lot of these quote unquote differences that you can draw so much strength and so much quote unquote diversity, but also just your capacity to lead. You can lead from those quote unquote disadvantages. There are people that are actually relying on you to lean into those disadvantages and turn them into superpowers so that you can then empower other people. So to younger Renee, I'll say, girl, all of these things that make you different is what makes you special.
That is beautiful. What would I tell younger Courtney? Maybe focus on studying a bit more. But I would ultimately say, keep serving people. I think when people identify you as a leader, it's easy to put on, your shoulders up. Yeah, I'm a leader, and that's so cool. And people are like, you're going far. But I think it's to remember that the best leaders are the greatest servants. So serve people. Always look for where you can add value to people, because I think we always think it's our gifts and our talents that open doors and make room for us, but oftentimes it's also the favor of people and people just liking us, and you can gain people's favor by serving them and being really servant conscious when it comes to serving people, whether they are higher than you, below you, in whatever work structure you're in. Think about how you can serve community. I think even with To My Sisters, what we've done and the amount of global support we've received from women is because every week we think, how can we serve them better with the resources that come from this content? How can we serve them better? And so, yeah, that's what I'll tell her. Don't get puffed up, serve. Yeah. Amazing. Well, beautiful people, this is actually the end.
Yes. Not a jump scare this time, not a false alarm.
No, it's not a gag. This one's over. But it was so lovely speaking to you. Thank you so much, Kike. Not just for being on this panel, but for everything you do. Honestly, thank you for this conference, and thank you for BYP and everything you're going to be doing with Chamber of Commerce as well. We have been your amazing hosts. This is my best friend, Renee Kapuku, and I'm Courtney Daniela Boating. Thank you for coming to our podcast.
Thank you, ladies.
Who's famous?